Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Stellantis' Dare Forward 2030 agenda. Now this was a plan that basically kind of outlined where Stellantis was going to go for a huge lofty goals that everybody was at the time in the industry was calling, revolutionary. At the time that this was, presented back in March of 2022, there was a huge movement towards electrification. All of a sudden, we decided we were going to skip hybrids and skip plug-ins and go full-on EV into the next decade. It was a huge step, but you know what? It was kind of bold, and it seemed like Stellantis was going to be at the forefront with their goals, and it was all about saving the planet with, fighting climate change. And we know the realistic kind of methods behind EVs. You're still getting them from coal-powered plants or natural gas in the ground. But nonetheless, there's a lot of things we could talk about EVs, but the plan was that they were going to be carbon neutral by 2038. They were going to sell 100% battery electric vehicles in Europe by 2030. And the goal was for here in the US that we were going to get 50% of our sales were going to be battery electric by 2030. So it was a very, what the industry was, calling at the time a very bold move and all this stuff. But over the past few years, we've seen under the leadership of the former CEO Carlos Tavares, and this is his brainchild here, this Dare Forward 2030, that it was a big failure for the company. Not only did the cost cutting from to kind of outlie putting money towards this agenda really hurt the company in different areas, but also it really ticked off a lot of customers to the point where they didn't have the choice of what they were going to buy. Instead, we were being forced to, hey, you're going to buy battery electric vehicles, you're going to buy this kind of product. And a lot of people ended up either leaving the brands or ended up saying, hey, I'm not going to buy a Stellantis product ever again. And it really caused a lot of backfire within the industry. So when Tavares was ousted in December, we started seeing massive change almost immediately. And it was kind of comical at the time because, John Elkann, who was, he's the chairman of Stellantis, he was basically up there with Tavares saying, hey, we're going to be all, carbon neutral by 2030. We're going to, help, fight climate change and all this stuff. And now he's even reverting because he knows that, this whole method of how they were going is a failure. It's a flop. So the very interesting thing is this week at the IAA Mobility Conference in Munich, Germany, if we go over to this little article here on the Automotive News Europe, I also did an article yesterday on Mopar Insiders. Jean-Philippe Imparato, who is the chief operating officer for Stellantis in Europe, he has come out and officially said that they are not going to follow the Dare Forward 2030 program anymore. And this is the first time we've actually had a Stellantis executive say that the Dare Forward 2030 program is dead. Now, since Antonio Filosa has taken over the CEO role, he basically said, hey, we're going to look at how that plan's going and change it if it needs to be changed. But he never said, hey, we're ditching it automatically. He said that they were going to reevaluate it. But now we have official word that starting in Europe, they will not be 100% EV by 2030. And that's a bold move because in Europe, there's a huge pushback against EVs right now. They are in the same boat that we were just a few months ago. So with EVs comes additional price because, again, your batteries and stuff are very expensive, and a lot of people simply just can't afford these expensive EVs. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and a lot of people would rather have hybrids and, gasoline or diesel powered options. But unfortunately, because of EU regulations, they're really pushing the whole EV agenda, but there's several countries in the EU that don't want this kind of thing. Example, Germany and Italy are two big countries that are pushing back against it because they have a massive auto industry. So again, you see like manufacturers like Mercedes-Benz who can't even meet the emission standards. Again, Germany's sticking up for them. But there's a huge battle between these automotive regulations over there, and Stellantis is joining with Volvo and Ford and Mercedes to say, hey, we're not going to follow all that stuff anymore. The EV stuff is pretty much not dead because there's still a huge portion globally that want EVs, but we're going to offer choice. We're not going to be just an EV company. It's not going to work out for us. And you got to remember, these companies are in the business to make money. Even if the governments tell them what to do, they want to make money. So unless the government is just pouring out money for them, which they're not anymore, they're not going to do it. So again, this is a huge move because this is just the first step of, like I said, from an official at Stellantis saying Dare Forward 2030 is pretty much dead. So we've noticed here in the U.S. they haven't said it officially. We still see it on some of their press releases down at the bottom about their 2030 goals and stuff. But obviously, the return of the Hemi in the Ram 1500, which is actually in dealers now. We're hearing we've seen the Durango lineup go all Hemi here in the U.S. There's a huge push for V8s, but there's also a push for hybrids. The new Cherokee. The new Jeep Cherokee KM is launching here this next month. That's going to be Jeep's first full hybrid vehicle here in the States. And again, that's not a battery electric vehicle. That's a hybrid vehicle. But it doesn't mean that EVs are dead. Again, 20% of the global market still wants EVs. So again, Jeep is still going forward with building the Recon, which we're actually going to talk about in a video later this week. But the Recon will be a all battery electric vehicle. But we're also seeing the new Dodge Charger 6-pack cars come out, showing that there's going to be choice. You're not going to be limited to having EV only options. So it's a bold move to go back. But it's where the market wants. We want cheaper options. We want, a freedom of choice. And Stellantis obviously knows that now under the new leadership. So it's going to be, a huge move going backwards, and it's going to be a lot of damage control. But again, this is the first official announcement saying, hey, the EV kind of movement that we're pushing for is dead. So again, we've seen with the 500e, this vehicle that we see on the screen here, back over in Europe, the sales have tanked on it. When it first launched, it was, one of the most popular EVs throughout the region. It came here in the US. It hasn't been a huge seller here because of the price. But now they're talking about, they're actually started production of a hybrid over there. It's not going to come here to the US just yet. We don't know if it's going to come at all. But anyways, over in Europe, they started a hybrid. They spent, over $100 million revamping the vehicle to become a hybrid with an internal combustion engine. And the reason why is because in order to save the brand and save that vehicle, they had to invest money and give the customers what they want. So again, we're going to start seeing more, multi-energy vehicles. Again, EVs aren't going to go anywhere, but we're also going to see additional hybrids. We're going to see plug-ins. We're going to see everything. Freedom of choice, and that's a big thing. So tell me what you think. I'm sure a lot of you guys are happy about it, being done with, officially done with Dare Forward 2030. So let me know in the comments below what you think of Stellantis' move to kind of revert back to how they were, even back to how it was run back in the FCA days. And let me know down below. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.